There are stories kingdoms tell themselves, and then there are the stories they bury because the truth is too dangerous to speak aloud. This is one of the latter. They say the queen was the most beautiful woman the realm had ever seen. They say her face never changed, not in all the decades she ruled. But beauty, as you will learn, is rarely free, and hers was bought with a price no mother should have paid. She was born to the king's third wife, a girl barely 16 when she entered the palace, younger than the king's own daughters. The first wife had given him 3 girls, the second wife 3 more. The third wife was meant to be different. She was meant to give him a son. But when the baby came, small and wailing and unmistakably female, the young mother felt the ground crack beneath her feet. A daughter was not enough, not when 6 others already existed, not when the line of succession had already been drawn. Her child would inherit nothing, and soon neither would she. So the young mother did what frightened people do when they feel the world closing in. She went searching for another way. She left the palace under the cover of night, walking barefoot through the gardens, past the outer walls, into the forest, where the air grew colder and the trees leaned in like eavesdroppers. She followed the old paths, the ones the elders warned children never to take, until the moonlight thinned and the world fell silent. There, in a clearing where no birds sang, she called out, not to God, not to ancestors, but to something that had no name in any prayer she knew. The spirit with no name arrived without footsteps, a shape made of shadow and breath, its voice like wind through a hollow bone. It offered her 3 promises. No son would ever be born to the king, her daughter would be named his heir, and the king would die the moment the girl turned 18, so no new wife could ever replace her. The mother agreed before the spirit finished speaking. She did not ask the cost. The spirit with no name did not volunteer it. She returned to the palace before dawn, her feet bleeding, her eyes bright with hope and terror. And from that night on, she raised her daughter inside a lie woven with silk and ceremony. In the years that followed, the king's older daughters left the palace one by one, married to distant kings, sent as diplomatic offerings to kingdoms beyond the mountains, each departure quietly arranged, each farewell accepted as the natural order of things. Nobody counted. Nobody noticed the pattern. By the time the third wife's daughter turned 5, she was the only princess left in the palace, and the king, for reasons he could not fully explain even to himself, began to see her differently. The princess grew up adored, praised, polished like a jewel. She was told she was exceptional, favored by the gods, destined for greatness. And she believed it, because why wouldn't she? Her skin glowed, her reflection never aged, her beauty sharpened with every passing year, as if the world itself was sculpting her into something more than human. She did not know the truth. She did not know about the deal her mother had made. She only knew that she was loved, protected, and promised a crown. And always at her side was Sephora, a servant girl of the same age, assigned to her from infancy. The two were inseparable. Sephora brushed her hair, tied her sashes, carried her secrets. but their bond was deeper than duty. Once, during a violent storm, the young princess hid beneath her bed, trembling at the thunder. Sephora crawled in beside her without a word, wrapping an arm around her shoulders, steady and calm. The princess whispered, "Don't leave me," and Sephora, loyal even then, answered softly, "I'm right here." It was the only promise in the girl's life that would ever be kept. On her 18th birthday, the king collapsed at her feet, just as the spirit foretold. She ascended the throne that same night, and with the crown came hunger. The glamour that had protected her since birth twisted into something predatory. Her beauty intensified, her reflection brightened until it hurt to look at. Her shadow moved too slowly, as if afraid to follow. And when her first husband vowed himself to her, a kind man, a loyal man, a man who loved her genuinely, the spirit came to collect its due. She leaned in to kiss him on their wedding night, and smoke poured from her mouth. Soft at first, then ravenous. It wrapped around him like a lover, then drained his life force from the inside out. He crumbled into golden dust at her feet. The queen stared, horror blooming in her chest. She tried to scream, but when she opened her mouth, only satisfaction poured out. Her skin glowed, her youth returned, her bones sang with vitality. The spirit had claimed more than her future. It had claimed her will. She inhaled the dust without thinking and understood. Sephora found her in the morning, kneeling beside the bowl of golden powder. The queen looked up, eyes wide and wet. "What have I done?" Sephora knelt beside her. She did not answer. She never did. She only took the queen's hands in hers and whispered, "You're still here. That's what matters." It was a kindness. It was also a lie. Years passed, then decades. 12 cycles of beauty and decay. 12 husbands, chosen, married, and consumed. 12 bowls of golden dust arranged in a quiet ceremonial row, each one a testament to the price of her perfection. The first bowl was bright and fine, almost shimmering. The second was heavier, darker at the edges. By the fifth, the dust had taken on a strange metallic scent. By the ninth, Sephora could no longer look at them without trembling. The queen's beauty became legend. Her reign became myth. But the truth was simpler. Every 5 years, she began to rot. Her skin dulled, her bones ached, her glamour flickered like a dying candle. And when the decay grew too visible, she veiled her face and sought another husband. Not out of love, not out of loneliness, but out of self-preservation. Her victims were just collateral damage, the cost of maintaining the life she had always been promised. Sephora, now elderly and frail, would whisper each time, "Your Majesty, it's time." Her voice carried the weight of 60 years of loyalty and 60 years of complicity. Husband 12 restored her fully, gold and dust rising like incense, settling like blessing. But 5 years later, the veil returned. Her hands trembled, her reflection stuttered. She was desperate again. And that is when she saw him. A quiet man in the market square, unremarkable, unattractive by her lifelong standards, unmoved by the whispers of the veiled queen passing through. He did not stare, he did not bow. He simply existed, as if the world's beauty and cruelty had nothing to do with him. She thought, he will be easy. She thought, he will not resist. She did not know the spirit had been waiting for him all along.
They married within a week. On the night of the feast, she dismissed her attendants. She removed her veil. Her face was cracking at the edges, skin thin as parchment. She leaned in. She exhaled the smoke. It hit him like a wave, thick, hungry, desperate. And nothing happened. She tried again, harder, frantic, pouring everything she had into him. The smoke thickened, swirling around him like a storm. Still nothing. Her voice broke. "Where is your soul?" He answered simply, as if stating a fact about the weather. "I don't have one." Her eyes widened. "What are you?" He tilted his head, calm and unbothered. "I was empty long before I met you. The spirit with no name called me here. It needed a new host. You were never going to survive this marriage." The spirit shrieked. The glamour shattered. Smoke tore itself from her body in violent, writhing tendrils and hurled itself into his. He straightened. He glowed. His skin smoothed. His eyes brightened. He became everything she once was. And she collapsed into her true age. 83 years old, bones brittle, beauty gone, breath thin as thread. He carried her to the isolation chamber, the place where old hosts were kept until their mortal days ran out. The spirit allowed no witnesses, no interference, no mercy. When she woke, the room was dim and cold. She looked around with eyes that finally saw clearly. "Where is my maid, Sephora?" He stood in the doorway, bathed in unnatural light. He did not soften, nor did he mourn. "She tried to stop the wedding," he said. "She knew what I was. The spirit with no name doesn't tolerate interference. It never has." He paused. She turned to dust before she could even speak your name. The queen closed her eyes. A single tear traced the deep lines of her face. "She kept her promise," she whispered. "She stayed until the end." He set a bowl of food beside her bed. He studied her face, the real one, the one time had carved honestly. Then, in a voice as calm as the night he stole her crown, he said, "I have everything anyone could ever want. Beauty, admiration, power. I knew what I was. I didn't know what you'd been through. For what it's worth, I'm sorry it had to be you." She absorbed the words, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Then she exhaled, long and slow, and smiled. "You freed me," she said. "I'm the lucky one. For the first time in my life, I can be who I really am." Her reflection, wrinkled, honest, mortal, finally matched her face. And for the first time in 65 years, she felt whole. Some say the new king rules with a beauty that feels wrong. Some say his shadow moves strangely. Some say the chamber where the old queen lives flickers with light whenever she breathes. But Sephora is gone. The dust bowls remain, and the queen, for the first time, is whole. Beauty was her prison, age became her key, and freedom, when it finally comes, is worth every year it costs.